Sup everyone, hello, yes, my name is Kade and I used MDMA at work today. Yeah, some of you have taken one look at me and gone, that tracks. If you're a bit confused or perhaps not familiar with the acronym MDMA, I am in fact talking about methylene dioxymethamphetamine, the key ingredient in the party drug you might instead know as ecstasy. But no, despite looking like a pubescent boy on the way to his second rave, you can laugh at that. When I say I used MDMA at work today, I do of course mean I used it in an experiment. And no, that experiment was not on myself. You see, I'm actually an addiction neuroscientist. Don't worry, I'm not here to tell you that drugs are bad. MDMA is not actually the villain of this story. I think MDMA has the potential to help a lot of people. And I hear your question, help people do what? Somehow enjoy crowds of sweaty strangers and electronic dance music? Well, I mean, I've certainly heard that it can do that. But MDMA can do so much more. So just indulge me for a moment here and imagine something, right? You're sitting in a cozy sunlit room in a small beachfront cottage, but obviously not in Melbourne right now. Imagine we're on holidays. Through the open window, you're enjoying the sound of the waves, the warmth of the sun, the ocean breeze flaunting its signature scent of decomposing seaweed and fish poo. Yeah, we got it. Suddenly, you hear a door slam shut. And you aren't just a little bit startled. Your entire body is gripped with panic. You're completely safe. Your brain seems to have made a mistake, and it's reacting as though you've just been shot at. Because a few years ago, you were shot at, and now your overachieving brain is aware of every potential threat. So in this scenario, you're experiencing symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, a condition which, as the name suggests, some people develop after experiencing trauma. Now imagine you've seen doctors and therapists, but treatment options are super limited and nothing has been able to quiet that constant panic you feel. Except a cheeky beer. I mean, we all know alcohol can do wonders for those anxious feelings, right? At least at first. But the problem with alcohol, the sneaky little bitch, is the more you drink, the less it starts to help. So it's okay, because you can just drink more, right? I mean, nothing else has helped. And right now, all that matters is that this is unbearable. And alcohol seems to help, so you drink more. Even if you know that long term, it's probably making your PTSD worse. And so this is the vicious cycle that so many people find themselves trapped in, where their PTSD and their drinking are not only making each other worse, but they're actually getting harder to treat. Whoa, great comedy talk, Kade. Apologies to anyone who came here tonight and didn't want to feel any feelings, but don't worry, that's the grim bit over, because here enters our hero, MDMA. Yeah. So MDMA seems to help therapy essentially break people out of this cycle, right? And I don't know if you guys heard the exciting news, but just last year, Australia became the first country in the world to reclassify MDMA and recognize that it's not just a bad drug, it's also a medication. Which is what I imagine its dating profile would say. I can do both, babe. Now, I will just flag that I did say MDMA helps therapy, because very specifically, what has been legalized here in Australia is this idea of MDMA-assisted therapy. So this is where people do a large, 12-week block of therapy, right? And for just 2 or 3 of those sessions, they take MDMA. And some really recent and exciting clinical trial results have found that compared to people still doing therapy, MDMA-assisted therapy seems to be pretty great at reducing the severity of people's PTSD and reducing how much they drank. So I'm like, this is awesome, this is amazing, I want to help these people, I should do this, I can become an MDMA therapist, totally. Anyone who's actually met me in real life knows that I am way too socially awkward to make a living off one-on-one human interactions. But it's okay. I found a solution, because now I run MDMA-assisted therapy sessions for rats. I mean, as pop culture has taught us, anyone can cook. Okay, fantastic jokes aside, I'm obviously not out here trying to tackle the psychological struggles and substance use issues of wild rats. So you may find yourself wondering why I am giving MDMA to rats, which, valid question. So like I said, we have really good evidence from humans that MDMA-assisted therapy seems to really work. What we don't yet understand is why. Like, how is MDMA changing the brain to help people break free from these conditions? Unfortunately, figuring out the really juicy neuroscience of this kind of requires like slicing up the brains at the end of the experiment, which is just counterproductive to the healing of the humans, I imagine. I imagine. Preclinical neuroscientists like myself, we model these conditions and these treatments using animals like mice and rats. And if you're maybe struggling to imagine what this looks like, the good news is that my entire PhD project has been pretty much trying to work that out, so I have some insights for you. First of all, no. Creating a rodent model of PTSD is not as straightforward as just arming our animals with Stuart Little-sized weapons and shipping them off to war. What we actually do is we will play our animals a harmless sound, a beep, right? And every time we do, they get a little foot shock. It's not enough to hurt them, just gives them a little fright. But what we find happens is that over time, the animals start to get scared of just the sound of the beep. Kind of like all of us after high school PE classes. Or like someone being scared of a slamming door. Now remember, we also wanted to get them drinking, so do I take them out for bevs after work? Also no. What we actually do, we give them a bunch of 2-hour sessions where we replace one of their 2 water bottles with a bottle of booze. Now, unfortunately, this graphic here is a little bit misleading. We don't give them beer, because no, I also moonlight as a rat bartender, so yeah, complete with working that hospo life in on weekends and holidays. We love it, but I do get to flex my bartending skills and I whip up a mad cocktail for the rats, so I'll tell you how to make it, right? So you go grab the 100% ethanol from the lab, you know, the shit that we use to sterilize and clean stuff, yeah. You fill up the bottle like a fifth of the way, strong 20%, top her up with tap water, give it a shake, bada bing, bada boom. That's it, and they drink it. They totally drink it. Totally voluntary as well, right? And actually, over time, we find they end up drinking more of that than they do of their water bottle. Yeah. So, armed with our condition here of our PTSD and our drinking, we arrive at the question that I'm sure a lot of you have been asking for the last several minutes, which is, how the fuck do I give therapy to a rat? Yeah. Let alone one that's taken MDMA. It obviously doesn't look like this. You guys have figured that out by now, but like, isn't it cute? Isn't it cute? No, in reality, this essentially takes the form of an exposure therapy, right? So we repeatedly play them the sound of this beep, this time without the shock, and over time they learn the beep itself is not a threat, pretty chill. So, as you might expect, we've found that if you give the animals MDMA half an hour before this session, it changes how quickly they learn that this beep is safe. What you might not expect, because we didn't, is that MDMA seems to affect this in like the opposite direction, like impairing their learning. Yeah, and we actually found similar results when we tested them the next day, completely sober. So watch this space while we figure out what the fuck that means. But this is not the end of the experiment, because a day later I get to have my Dan Andrews moment and let them get back on the beers. And excitingly, we found that alcohol-preferring rats who were on MDMA during therapy drank far less here than the saline controls. And I mean, look, the ones who drank more might have just been salty that I pocketed their drug money and injected them with literal salt water. But this result does mirror what we've seen in humans, so this is obviously an exciting step in the right direction. Because armed with this model, hopefully now scientists can begin to untangle what's going on in the brain. And this is going to teach us more about MDMA, but also about these conditions themselves. And then we can use that information to help the humans who are struggling. Humans who, much like MDMA, have for a long time been stigmatized and misunderstood. And if you'll allow me to have my little soapbox moment at the end here, ultimately for me, the research, this exciting research with MDMA and the direction that the world is moving is kind of symbolic, right? It's showing us that hope can be found in the most unexpected forms. It's a symbol of potential and of a world moving towards understanding and compassion and listening to science, which is amazing. And look, we might still be a little bit of a way off this being accessible to everyone who needs it, but hey, if you're a rat, come chat to me after the show. I know a guy. Thank you.